Well, indeed, thank you for staying with us here on KTN Business today. My name is Peter Okaba. And just before we go on to the interview that we had talked about earlier, of course, you are aware that it is just 69 days to the election and politics continues to be the topic of the day. We now want to take you live to an event that is just happening where Gladys Boschole has just received her certificate that, of course, enables her to run for the seat of Women Rep. That, of course, is for Uasin Gishu County. She is, of course, on the ground, and we want to listen into just what exactly is going on.
So thank you, everyone who's been with. Thank you, Apostle. I appreciate you and everyone who's here. Kongoi gogo, kongoi missing. Yeah. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Asante sana, asante sana, madam. All the best.
Thank you.
Those pictures there are of a live event that is currently going on. Gladys Boschole there, well, presenting her papers officially to be able to run for the position of Women Rep. That, of course, being for Uasin Gishu counties. And we can, of course, tell you that it is part of the proceedings that have been going on today. Yesterday, we did see the president himself go to the KICC to be able to present his papers to, well, be officially on the ballot. And that, of course, is an exercise that is continuing elsewhere across the country at various levels. Well, we now go on to our interview of the day, and as pointed out, Jared Maranga is policy lead tax and investment at the Tax Justice Network here in Nairobi.
Africa,
yeah, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Yeah, so first off, not many people are even aware of what the Nairobi Financial Services Center bill is. Not many people even know what the Nairobi International Financial Service Center is supposed to be. For a lot of people, they know it is something to do with the fact that we're supposed to be merging several regulators into one big body. But maybe you can just start to shed some light on this for the viewers.
Okay, thanks, Okaba, for the opportunity to enlighten probably on how we can understand Nairobi International Financial Center from maybe a layman's language or a layman's understanding. So basically what it means is it's going to be a center which is going to bring together financial service providers. And from this center, then they will be providing services to the various stakeholders. In that case, all you expect in these are insurance companies, banks, maybe capital markets authorities, and such kind of financial service providers. Yeah.
For a lot of people, especially in finance circles, they might have heard of the City of London. The financial services center that enables, that brings together, so to say, the financial district at an almost global level. And for a lot of us, we tend to think that this is what government and other stakeholders want to try and replicate here, the fact that you want to create a place where companies can come to be able to find, well, so to say, best services for various aspects that are financial.
Definitely, you're right in that whatever we are trying to emulate here is sort of a London, maybe it's a financial center, in the sense that it's going to provide similar platform in terms of which kind of firms we are likely to operate in this center and which kind of services we expect to see in this center. The only difference might be the level of interaction in terms of the firms which are going to operate, and in terms of legislation, and probably in terms of how this is going to be framed.
Yes. Yeah. So setting up such a financial center, of course, means that you have to put in place the proper financial, regulatory, economic, and other things, framework, as you've just said. And part of the reason we are talking about this is the fact that the Nairobi International Financial Services Center bill has gone to its second reading in Parliament. Maybe you can tell us what that means first for people, and how that then translates into enabling this become reality.
Okay. It is going through the normal legislative processes. That is, it went through its first reading, and now it's done the second reading, and probably we are looking forward for that reading.
Yes. So
definitely what it means is that if it's going to be passed through Parliament, then it will be in the hands of the President to accent, so that it becomes an act.
Yes.
So that is what it means. So what we are waiting to see is how is the second or the third reading going to be in terms of the debate in Parliament.
Which then brings us to the crux of the matter, the fact that for a lot of stakeholders, there have been reservations about the way that this has been done, the way the bill has been framed, some of the provisions in there. For example, this is part of the memorandum that the Tax Justice Network Africa has shared with Parliament. And I just want to quote one of the recommendations, that for public accountability and transparency, any proposed tax incentives should also be subject to the approval by Parliament. And this is in regards to Clause 36 2B, which empowers the Cabinet Secretary to make regulations generally for the Centre by permitting exemptions and incentives to NIFC firms. So in essence, this is a clause that gave sweeping powers to the Cabinet Secretary to decide who to give tax waivers to. I want just to bring up a story that was carried today by a newspaper in Uganda, I think the Daily Monitor, where Parliament literally threw out a recommendation to give tax holidays to companies, to one particular company, Bujagali Power, for the next 30 years until 2033. Yeah. And this is something that would be almost similar.
Exactly, that would be a similar sort of arrangement. What is provided in Section 36 of this bill is that the Cabinet Secretary will have a leeway to make proposals of the kind of incentives. And in that case, we are calling them, because of the word may, we expect the discretionary powers that will come by that. And I'm feeling if it's not part of the bill, then it means it is going to come as a result of regulations. So that kind of provision gives a leeway of giving those discretionary exemptions and incentives. Similar case you've mentioned of what is happening in Uganda at the moment.
Yes.
Giving a company a leeway to have a tax holiday for around up to 2033.
They've actually already enjoyed 5 years already.
And they want to extend that one to 2033, meaning they're not going to pay any tax, and then ultimately want to finance our development.
Yes.
So what is going to be the benefit associated to that kind of move? So the discretionary powers is what makes us have a reservation on the kind of regulations that we expect to be running this kind of center.
Even before we go to the other instances, because this is a memorandum that runs to some 3 pages, let's talk a bit about something that has been, sorry, I have to literally interject, because I'm told that Gladys Boss Cholet is right now talking to the press again in Uasin Gishu, that of course is in Eldoret, and we want to just join in and listen to what the proceedings are. Let's cross over live.
This is the conversation from my enemies who said that I wouldn't be cleared. And we constantly told them that the law is clear. I think now it's shown to them that the law is clear. Yes. But most importantly, I think what matters is the work ahead of us. We will continue to campaign extremely hard. I have told my team that it is not over until it's over. And I think we are trying to go for at least 98% of the vote in Uasin Gishu County. That is our target. And so we are thankful to everyone who has supported us. Amen. And most importantly, we are thankful to God Almighty, who's brought us this far. So thank you, everyone. And watu wa Uasin Gishu. Campaign. We shall campaign even harder than I ever campaigned before. Yes. We will not be resting or sleeping or lying on our laurels. And you can see all the women with me. Most of them are women who vied under the Jubilee ticket for various seats, including the same seat as me, but we've all vowed to work together as women of Uasin Gishu, and also to make sure that our party is in office. Yes. Because we don't want to be outside the government, we want to be in the government. Yes. So we've got to work very hard that Jubilee wins. Yes. And that we have President Kenyatta and William Ruto in office. Amen. And that is why they are holier. They said we will not defect and become independent. Yes. Because there is nothing called an independent. If you have vied before, you have defected. That is what essentially you have done. But these women have agreed to stand behind and say that we're going to back our party. Yes. If we said we're in the party, we stay with the party no matter what, and work within the party. So I appreciate all of them, and they are amazing women. So asanteni sana. God bless you. I think IBC so far, if you've seen the way they've done the nominations, it seems impressive. I've gone around to see the voter verification process. I think the only sad part is I think there's a low turnout with voter verification process. I think we've got to use, the media has to work harder and help us to ensure that people go and verify their names in the register, so we don't have a situation of a low turnout. And I think that is the only challenge that I'm seeing. But IEBC, I think better than before, They have I was very surprised that they have the latest equipment. During my time, I think the same equipment was like 20 kilos. Now it's like a little iPad. I think it's quite impressive, the progress they've made. And I think they should be up to the task. They should be able to do it. They have a lot of experience to learn from. And they...
Well, indeed, that there being Gladys Boss-Osholei, she has just presented her papers officially and, of course, been accepted to run for the position of woman representative for Uasin Gishu County, that, of course, being a live coverage there from Eldoret. And she's saying that she chose to remain within the party no matter what and see it through right to the end. And, of course, saying that she will continue to campaign extremely hard to make it to the, well, not just the ballot, but, of course, to Parliament. Well, we, of course, want to continue with our interview that we interrupted to go to that live coverage. Then, before we, well, proceeded in that direction, we essentially were going to ask the question, the fact that we have a history of tax holidays and these sorts of things here in the country. Case in point, the EPZs that people have talked about so much recently, tax holidays, 10 years, companies mutate, these sort of things. Will this bill continue to encourage the same sort of behavior?
Absolutely, it will be going to the same direction.
Yes.
If we're not going to put the best framework in place. Basically, if you look at the way EPZs have been operating, in that we have a company registering under the EPZ zone,
yes,
and over the period of 10 years, you realize it's closing down without even reporting tangible economic impact to the economy. So basically, if we're going to have a center set like an EPZ, meaning you're going to provide legislation that are going to guide a specific zone of financial service providers, then we are likely to go into the same route as we experience in the EPZs.
And just to interrupt you, right, the fact that recently we've seen a move to start to let these companies sell their wares locally. Say that we're appointing several days of a month for companies registered in the EPZ to be able to sell to Kenyans to enable them allegedly access goods and services that are at a global level of quality. Yet we have companies that are working in the normal environment to try and reach the same customer. Do you think that is fair in reality?
When you look at it critically in terms of competitive advantage, then it means the EPZ farms will have a competitive advantage compared to what the farms which are doing their business outside this zone.
Yes.
But again, if you look at the EPZ Act, there is that provision where you have, they are allowed to trade about 20% of their production within the economy.
Yes.
In that case, I'm hoping they are going to use probably that 20% within that window. But again, that 20% might be subjected to the normal treatment when it comes to taxation.
So then, which brings us back to our earlier conversation. You talked about legislation that allows them 20%.
Yes.
Essentially, if you look at the rest of the people operating in, for example, the textile sector, people like Thika Clothing Mills, which has been in operations for 30 years, depending solely on uniforms right now. Others have closed down. Indeed, life is tough for them. No one really pulling for them, giving them tax incentives, tax holidays, and yet you now have to compete with these sorts of organizations which literally just parachute in with new technology and live at leisure. What are the other clauses that you can point out in this bill that you think are problematic?
So based on the bill that we have at hand, we've tried to look through the kind of clauses that have been proposed. And in our opinion, we feel there are some clauses which need either to be refined to some extent, or else there's need to relook at the entire maybe formulation. Especially if you look at the section 32 of this clause, which is providing the rights and benefits that these farms which are going to operate within the center that are going to enjoy. Considering the objective of the bill is to encourage savings and investments within the economy. So which means for us to see the effects of these savings and investments, there must be a redistribution effect.
Yes, either investing it locally or some sort of taxation, which then means...
you have maybe this income moving through the household, then you get it on through. Generally, that will mean our economy is likely to develop. But if you look at the way it's been set up, as one of the rights and benefits they're going to enjoy is that they have a leeway of repatriating 100% of the profits outside the country, which means the opportunity that is going to be there for us to have these profits redistribute themselves within the economy is so limited to an extent that it will be probably the amount that has been paid out in form of expenditure for these companies, but for the profit maybe part, we expect that that amount is going to be repatriated.
Talk to us about employment, because it's also a sticking point here, the fact that those companies are under no obligation to employ locals. Exactly.
Still under the same section, you realize there's a provision that these companies can employ up to 100% of expatriates, or they have freedom of employing whoever they want to employ. And considering we are championing Kenya to be having more talents.
Yes, especially with the high rate of unemployment.
Exactly. Now we are trying to see how can it be put in a legislation that if they're going to employ expatriates, basically considering they might provide unique services, to what extent are these expatriates going to be allowed?
Yes.
And after how long do we expect the transition from expatriates
and technology transfer?
Yeah, that is the question.
Yes.
But the way it is, it means that they don't have a control, and then you expect that because it's going to be segregated center, then you will expect them to have like 100% expatriate employment, which means for talented Kenyans, there is limited opportunities in terms of accessing this employment.
Yes.
Yeah.
For places like Mauritius, Delaware, and the rest, they have just one number in terms of payment. They say you pay 3% of whatever figure they pick, if it's turnover, if it's profits, or that sort of thing, to be able to, well, cushion these companies. But we don't seem to be making any sorts of provisions here. We are simply saying that at the discretion of a certain person to be appointed, mostly either by the president or the cabinet secretary, that literally gives them a lot of leeway to do what they want.
Yeah, definitely. When you look at the way it is, I'm hoping when they're going to come up with legislation or regulations, we are going to see more of such kind of provisions.
Yes.
But the way it is and the way it is given the leeway to the cabinet secretary, then it's an issue of worry because you don't know exactly what kind of regulations can be developed.
Yes.
But whatever has been anchored in this act is going to hold, and that's why we must be very cautious on how it's going to go through.
Indeed, thank you very much, Jared Maranga, Policy Lead, Tax and Investment at the Tax Justice Network Africa. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but when the bill does go through its third and final reading, we definitely want to be with you in studio to be able to take us through the fact that whether this bill does indeed emasculate Parliament for once, and whether it will ride roughshod over so many other laws that try to, well, rein in on some of the things which it is now proposing to do. Indeed, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. Well, indeed, that has been a conversation with Jared Maranga. He's from the Tax Justice Network Africa. Well, really trying to put into perspective what the Financial Services, Nairobi Financial Service Center bill means for you as a person here in the country, for you as a business person, and of course what it means for the rest of the economy. Unfortunately, that is where we have to bring it to a close here on KTN Business Today. Up next is Worldview with news making headlines from across the region and indeed across the world. From us here in studio, it is Kwaheri, and see you again at the same time tomorrow. Do continue to enjoy your viewing. My name is Peter Wakaba.